There's a kind of person who doesn't shout to be heard, yet the room quiets when they speak. Someone who walks with such silent conviction that others step aside, not out of fear, but curiosity. They don't try to dominate attention. They command it, without lifting a finger. You've met people like this. Or maybe you haven't, because the ones who leave the deepest impact often do so quietly. Their presence lingers. Their words echo. Their energy hums in the background long after they've left. This video is about becoming that person, not in some performative social chameleon way, but in the most authentic, internal, unshakable way. This is about cultivating such depth of character, clarity of direction, and serenity of purpose that the world begins to lean in, whether it's in your relationships, your career, or your daily life. Your presence will no longer be overlooked because you'll become someone they can't ignore. If you're ready to stop chasing validation and start radiating quiet power, then stay with me until the end. You're about to receive 11 transformative shifts that will change how you move through the world. And if this resonates with the kind of life you're building, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and hit the bell, because every week, the everlasting Stoic brings you deeper into a life of grounded strength, stoic clarity, and unshakable purpose. Let's begin. 1. Be intriguing without trying. That you don't attract people by screaming into the void. You attract them by becoming a mystery worth solving. The paradox is this: the more you try to be interesting, the less you are. Neediness is loud. Authenticity whispers. And it's the whisper that people chase, not the shout. We live in a world obsessed with oversharing. Everyone's posting their thoughts, their meals, their pain, their victories, their hot takes before they've even had a cold moment of reflection. And in this never-ending stream of noise, what stands out is silence. Calm. A well-timed pause. A person who doesn't rush to fill the gaps. Being intriguing without trying is about having nothing to prove. It's about being so deeply rooted in who you are that you don't need to announce it every 10 seconds. You're not performing your personality. You're simply being, and being is enough. It starts with holding something back. Not in a manipulative way, but in a deliberate one. The Stoics understood the power of restraint. They trained themselves to withhold opinions, to speak less than they knew, and to act only when necessary. This didn't make them invisible. It made them powerful, because when they did speak or act, it mattered. Modern culture tells you to market yourself. But let me offer you this: the most compelling people don't market. They emanate. There's a difference. If you've ever met someone who didn't talk much about their achievements, but you later discovered they'd lived an extraordinary life, traveled the world, built empires, written books, you remember how that made you feel. Respectful, curious, even a little reverent. That's the power of self-contained energy. Cultivating this energy starts with inner life. Are you reading things that stretch your mind? Are you spending time alone in thought? Are you letting silence sharpen your instincts? Intriguing people aren't just withholding, they're building. Every quiet moment is a forge. Every book they read becomes a deeper well of perspective. Every life experience is turned over, examined, distilled. This also means not revealing your hand too early. In conversation, it's tempting to fill the space, to talk about ourselves, to prove our value, to give a highlight reel, hoping we'll be liked. But the truly magnetic people, they ask more than they answer. They listen closely, and when they do speak, they speak with intention. Now let me be clear. Being intriguing isn't about being a mystery for mystery's sake. It's about having depth and letting others earn access to it. You don't throw open the gates to your soul. You leave a crack in the door and let those who care enough knock. This is especially powerful in relationships. People are drawn to what they cannot immediately grasp. When you are fully known in the first week, there's little left to discover. But if you unfold slowly, genuinely, not manipulatively, you create space for intrigue. A relationship becomes a slow unveiling, a journey inward. The more you chase attention, the more it slips away. But when you sit still with purpose, eyes will eventually turn to you, not because you asked them to, but because they can't help it. So here's a challenge. For the next week, say less. Observe more. Let people wonder. Let your actions speak. Your eyes reveal. And your words arrive with weight. And if you've ever practiced this, if you've learned the power of restraint, of calm curiosity, share your experience in the comments. What happened when you stopped trying to impress and simply became present? Or if you're ready to begin this journey now, comment below. I choose quiet power. 2. Know why you matter. It's not enough to want to be respected. You need to understand why you deserve to be. Because until you know your own value, the world will struggle to see it. This chapter isn't about ego. It's about essence. Your essence, your core identity, carries immense weight when you're anchored in it. But most people float through life detached from who they really are. They chase approval because they haven't found purpose. They mold themselves to fit others because they don't know their own outline. They follow trends, mirror desires, and end up being forgettable. Not because they lack value, but because they've never owned it. To be someone others can't ignore, you must first stop ignoring yourself. Let's start with a hard truth. Confidence that is not rooted in clarity will collapse. If you don't know your why, then your strength is hollow. The person who matters in a room isn't the loudest or the flashiest. It's the one whose presence says, I know who I am, and I walk with purpose. This knowledge doesn't arrive overnight. It takes excavation. You need to dig beneath the surface of what you do, what you own, who likes you, and uncover the solid bedrock beneath it all. Who are you when everything external is stripped away? Ask yourself, what are the values I won't betray? What cause would I bleed for? What truth would I die on a hill defending? What kind of person do I become when no one is watching? When you begin to answer these, something changes. You begin to walk taller, not arrogantly, but peacefully. The kind of peace that unnerves people. The kind of peace that can't be faked. Because when you know your worth, you stop auditioning. And this is where Stoicism comes alive. Marcus Aurelius didn't need applause to write his meditations. Epictetus, once a slave, spoke with more authority than kings. Why? Because they weren't performing. They were simply living from the deepest part of themselves. You don't need the world to tell you you're valuable. But you do need to tell yourself, every day, why you matter. And here's the secret. This isn't about self-affirmations in the mirror. This is about doing the work. You matter because you keep promises to yourself. You matter because you're building something, even when no one's clapping. You matter because you speak with intention, live with integrity, and align your life to something greater than momentary pleasure. The person who knows why they matter becomes magnetic, not because they seek attention, but because their energy is undeniable. People can feel it. They may not know why, but they're drawn in, because your inner conviction is louder than their confusion. This kind of grounded self-worth also makes you less reactive. You stop chasing petty arguments. You no longer need to prove someone wrong to feel right. You rise above drama, not because you're aloof, but because you're focused, anchored, and when setbacks come, and they will, you're not shattered. You may be bent, but never broken, because your sense of value wasn't tied to someone else's mood or mistake. It came from within. It always did. If you've made it this far, take a moment to reflect. Do you know why you matter? Not in vague terms, but with clarity. If you do, write it down. Anchor yourself to it. If you don't, begin today. Ask the hard questions. Dig beneath the surface. And if you're willing to share, comment below. Here's why I matter. And finish the sentence. Your words may help someone else find their own. Or, if you're still discovering, simply write, I'm digging deeper today. This is how we shift from seeking attention to becoming someone the world cannot ignore. 3. Radiate inner fulfillment. There's something irresistible about a person who doesn't need anything from you, but who still chooses to be present. We are naturally drawn to people who are at peace with themselves. People who don't fidget with approval. Don't check their phone every few seconds for dopamine crumbs. Don't hunt for laughter or praise or attention like a starving animal. People who aren't trying to win you over because they already have something far greater themselves. To become someone the world cannot ignore, you must become someone who radiates inner fulfillment. Not the loud, boastful kind, but the calm, steady kind. The kind that pulses beneath your skin like warmth on a winter day. The kind that doesn't scream because it doesn't need to. Inner fulfillment is quiet power, and most people are strangers to it. They chase substitutes. They chase romantic highs, applause, career promotions, beauty filters, or the next hit of novelty. But it never satisfies for long, because all of those things are dependent on something outside of you. They're leased, not owned, and what is leased can be revoked at any moment. But inner fulfillment, that's a fortress. Built brick by brick, moment by moment, through self-respect, alignment, solitude, discipline, and purpose. Let's be clear, fulfillment doesn't mean complacency. It doesn't mean floating through life with a fake smile or pretending everything's perfect. It means that even within the struggle, you feel anchored. You're no longer defined by whether someone compliments your haircut or ghosts your message. You're no longer begging the world to feed your sense of worth, because you've learned to feed yourself. And when someone like that walks into a room, people notice, not because they're trying to be noticed, but because there's a peace in them that the anxious crave. There's a steadiness that feels like refuge. You can feel when someone is no longer in conflict with themselves. You can feel when someone is complete, but this isn't something you fake. Fulfillment cannot be mimicked convincingly. You can't slap a mantra on your wall and expect transformation. It's a process, a craft, a spiritual discipline. You begin by building your inner life. Not just journaling when you're upset. Not just reading Stoic quotes and nodding, but actually living with intention. Spending real time in silence. Practicing gratitude without posting it. Reflecting on your choices, not just reacting to them. Replacing distraction with direction. Do you remember the last time you were completely content? Doing nothing? No phone, no music, no social validation, just you, in a room, with your thoughts. If that idea terrifies you, then inner fulfillment has not yet become your home. The Stoics practiced this constantly. Marcus Aurelius, with the weight of an empire on his shoulders, returned daily to stillness. He examined his mind. He held his desires to the fire. He trained himself not to be owned by luxury, comfort, or popularity. He practiced being enough. And this isn't about detachment for detachment's sake. It's about freedom, because when you are fulfilled from within, no one controls you. Not your enemies, not your lovers, not your failures, not your fortune. You stop needing to be chosen, because you already chose yourself. And ironically, that's exactly when people start paying attention. Not because you demanded it, but because you've become someone whose presence is a reminder of what they lack. So here's your challenge. Carve out 1 hour this week. No distractions, no goals, no external rewards. Just be with yourself. Reflect. Observe. Let discomfort rise and pass. Notice what comes up. Write it down. Start building your inner fortress, one silent brick at a time. And if you've tasted that kind of peace before, or if you're striving for it now, comment below with a short reflection. What does fulfillment mean to you? Or affirm your intentions simply by writing, I am learning to be whole. 4. Own your uniqueness. You weren't born to be a copy. And yet, from childhood onward, the world subtly and sometimes violently pressures you to conform, fit in. Don't stand out too much. Dress like this, speak like that, think within this box, feel within these boundaries. Be agreeable, be digestible, be normal. But no one ever became unforgettable by being normal. Your uniqueness is not a liability. It's your leverage, but only if you own it. You see, most people bury their individuality under layers of performance. They wear masks so long, they forget they're wearing one. They contort themselves to be liked, accepted, praised, and lose the raw, jagged beauty of who they actually are. They become watered-down versions of the people they admire rather than the unrepeatable original they were meant to become. And in doing so, they become forgettable, safe, ignorable. Here's the truth. You will never be everyone's favorite. But you can become unforgettable to the right people, in the right places, for the right reasons. But only when you stop seeking universality and start embracing your peculiarity. Do you stutter when passionate? Do you have unconventional tastes, weird habits, an obscure sense of humor, or intense ideas about the world? Good. Don't sanitize that. Don't trim yourself into something palatable. If your uniqueness scares people, maybe they were never meant to see you fully formed. The Stoics taught that our power lies in our reasoned nature. But within that rational structure, each soul burns with its own distinct flame. Seneca didn't write like Epictetus. Aurelius didn't lead like Cato, yet each stood in their own authority, unapologetically themselves. Owning your uniqueness is not about being loud or eccentric. It's about alignment. It's about recognizing that the things that make you different are the very things that make you irreplaceable. This means being real in your conversations, dropping the pretense, admitting when you don't know, sharing what you truly believe, not what you think will make you more likable. This means showing up in your natural cadence, with your own rhythm, not the algorithms. It means creating a life that actually fits you, not just the life others admire. Are you in the right field? Are you cultivating the right friendships? Are you working on projects that make your eyes burn with interest? Or are you just repeating someone else's path because it feels safer? Owning your uniqueness also means refusing to shrink around small minds. Not everyone will celebrate your originality. Some will mock it. Some will misunderstand it. Some will try to change you so they feel more comfortable. But let them. Because when you own your uniqueness fully, you begin to repel the wrong people and magnetize the right ones. You'll become polarizing. But in a world addicted to lukewarm approval, that's a superpower. The person who owns their uniqueness moves differently, speaks with authenticity, creates with originality, lives with fire, and the world, whether it admits it or not, can't help but watch. So, if you've been hiding parts of yourself, if you've dulled your own edges, this is your call to reclaim them. Let the comments be your act of rebellion. What is one trait about yourself that you've been tempted to hide? Or share this affirmation if you're stepping into your full self today. I will no longer dilute who I am. 5. Blaze your own trail. To be someone they can't ignore, you must stop walking the path they expect. Conventional paths are crowded, and crowded paths lead to average destinations. From the moment we're born, we're given a template. Go to school, get the degree, find a job, marry young, buy a house, have children, retire, die quietly. For some, this works. But for many, it suffocates the soul. Yet they follow it anyway, because it's safe, predictable, validated. But a Stoic doesn't seek validation. A Stoic seeks truth. And sometimes truth is found off-road. Blazing your own trail is not about rebellion for rebellion's sake. It's not about rejecting structure or authority just to feel powerful. It's about listening to the quiet voice within, the one that says, this isn't your road, and having the courage to follow where it leads. This path is harder. It's lonelier at first. There are fewer signs, no applause, no GPS. People will question you. You'll question yourself, but the rewards are sacred. Agency, freedom, and an unshakable connection to who you truly are. Consider the lives of those we revere. Marcus Aurelius didn't spend his nights at imperial banquets. He wrote quietly to himself in a tent during war. Epictetus didn't teach in a golden hall. He taught barefoot in a humble room. These men rejected the scripts given to them and lived by inner law. To blaze your own trail is to step off the paved road and into the wild terrain of personal destiny. It could mean starting a business rooted in passion instead of profit. It could mean ending a relationship that checks all the boxes but leaves your soul starving. It could mean moving to a place where you feel alive, even if no one understands why. And here's the paradox. Once you begin walking your own trail, people will start to notice. At first, they'll call you foolish, then brave, then inspiring. Eventually, they'll ask you for directions, even though your map was drawn in solitude. But it's not their approval you seek. It's your alignment, your peace. The quiet knowledge that you didn't betray yourself just to be acceptable. So ask yourself now, are you living someone else's dream or your own? Are you pursuing paths because they feel right or because they feel familiar? Your life is not a museum. It's not meant to be curated, sterilized, or presented for approval. It's meant to be lived fully, fiercely, freely. If this chapter stirred something in you, comment below. What trail are you afraid to walk? Or, if you're stepping out today, uncertain but determined, type, I walk the path meant for me. 6. Prioritize your joy. There is a deep and quiet strength in a person who protects their joy, not the shallow excitement of momentary pleasure, but the rooted joy that emerges from living in alignment. Most people don't prioritize joy. They prioritize productivity, appearance, or control. They build lives full of obligations, devoid of awe. They become efficient machines, reliable, responsible, respectable. But slowly they wither. The spark fades, they laugh less, play less, wonder less, and in time they become forgettable. Not because they weren't talented, but because they stopped glowing. But you can't afford to lose your glow. If you want to be someone who can't be ignored, you must cultivate joy as a virtue. Yes, joy is a virtue. The Stoics didn't define virtue as stern solemnity. They defined it as living in accordance with nature. And what is more natural than joy? The joy of being alive. The joy of creating, moving, thinking, building, laughing, exploring. These are not distractions from life. They are life. The heart was not made to endure forever in grayscale. There is a unique magnetism in a joyful person, not one who is naive or ignorant of the world's darkness, but one who has looked into the abyss and still chooses to smile. That kind of joy is rare. That kind of joy is powerful. And that kind of joy is unforgettable. But here's the truth. Joy does not just appear. It must be guarded, scheduled, protected, prioritized, like a sacred practice. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you deliberately pursued joy? Not just as a byproduct, but as a goal in itself? When did you last dance, laugh until breathless, build something just because it felt right? Most adults forget how to do this. We trade play for performance. We lose the imagination we once had and replace it with anxiety about metrics and status and who's watching. But joy doesn't thrive under scrutiny. It thrives in presence. To become someone others are drawn to, you must be someone who feels alive, who lights up when talking about something you love, who gives off the energy of a person who enjoys their existence. Joy doesn't mean you're always smiling. It doesn't mean ignoring pain. It means you've learned how to generate light in the darkness. That you don't depend on others to hand you happiness. You know where to find it within yourself. So how do you do this? Start small. Reconnect with forgotten passions. Take walks without a destination. Say no to things that drain you, even if they make sense. Laugh more often, even if it's just at yourself. Choose environments that feed your spirit. Remember, your joy is not a luxury. It's a responsibility. Because when you are joyful, you give others permission to be the same. You become a spark in the fog, a reminder that life is not only to be endured, but to be lived fully. And if you've ever made a hard decision in service of your joy, left a draining job, walked away from a cold relationship, reclaimed your mornings, share it in the comments below. Let others see what joy-driven courage looks like. Or simply affirm your intention by writing, "I will protect my joy." 7. Guard your time like treasure. Time is the most democratic currency we have. The poorest man and the richest king receive the same 24 hours, but only the wise understand its true value. You cannot become someone others respect, remember, and are drawn to, if your life is being pulled in 100 directions by people who do not value your time. The world is filled with time thieves. Not always malicious, but endlessly distracting. Notifications, invitations, demands, obligations, noise, always trying to divide your attention, dilute your focus, and draw you away from the quiet fortress where your greatness is built. To become unforgettable, you must become unavailable to the trivial. And that means learning the rare art of guarding your time like treasure. Let me be clear. Your time is not just a resource. It is your life. Every hour you waste is a piece of your legacy you give away. Every yes you say to something that doesn't serve you is a no to something that could have shaped you. But guarding your time doesn't mean isolation. It means intention. It means that your calendar reflects your priorities. Not your guilt, not your peer pressure, not your impulse. It means choosing presence over distraction, creation over consumption, and solitude over noise. The Stoics were obsessed with time. Seneca wrote, "On the shortness of life, warning that most people do not live. They merely exist. They drift from task to task, appointment to appointment, day to day, never truly owning their hours." He said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Wasting time is not just about binge-watching shows. It's about living unconsciously. It's about reactive mornings, aimless afternoons, scrolling to escape yourself instead of confronting your inner terrain. And the reason this matters is simple. Nobody respects a person who doesn't respect themselves. And respecting yourself begins with respecting your time. The person who guards their hours, who carves out space to think, to create, to rest, to become. This person is rare, and rare things always attract attention. So, here's what this might look like in practice. You turn your phone off for the first 2 hours of your day and use that sacred window to read, reflect, or build. You stop saying yes to every invitation just to avoid discomfort. You decline with dignity. You schedule time to think, not just to do, to sit in silence and evaluate the path you're on. You create a rhythm that honors your energy instead of draining it. Over time, you will notice something. People will start respecting your time more. They'll see that you're not always available, that you move with purpose, and they'll begin treating you accordingly. But even more importantly, you will start respecting yourself more. You'll walk differently. You'll speak differently. Because nothing builds self-trust like protecting the most precious thing you own, your hours. So, reflect now. What are the greatest time thieves in your life? What boundary do you need to set? What priority have you been pushing to someday that needs to become now? Comment below with one commitment you're making to guard your time. Or simply write, "My time is sacred." Say it, mean it, and watch how the world begins to reflect it back to you. 8. Share ideas, not desperation. There is a difference between reaching out and reaching for something that weakens you. Desperation is loud. It repels. And yet, it's what most people offer when they want to be noticed, respected, or loved. They over-explain. They overshare. They cling. They seek to pull others in through emotional weight, not intellectual or spiritual gravity. But here's the truth. You will never be unforgettable. If your energy screams, "Please pick me," the people who are admired, respected, and magnetized in every room are those who have ideas to share, not emotional debts to unload. They speak from their center, not from their void. When you enter a room or a relationship or a conversation, carrying a strong internal frame, you don't ask others to complete you. You offer something valuable, and that offering doesn't need to be a speech. It can be a single thought, a perspective, an insight, a calm observation, something real, something that reveals, "I have been thinking, I have been growing, I have something to contribute." That is what makes a person unforgettable. Not how loud they are, but how illuminating they are. But it begins with the hard work of becoming someone who has ideas worth sharing. And that requires solitude, learning, reflection. It requires transforming your wounds into wisdom before you force others to witness your bleeding. There is nothing wrong with vulnerability. But vulnerability without context, without self-possession, quickly becomes weight. And people avoid weight You don't become captivating by broadcasting your needs. You become captivating by embodying value, not in the capitalistic sense, but in the deeply human one. A person who enriches a room simply by being present. Consider the most memorable conversations you've had. They weren't with people who were trying to prove something. They were with people who were trying to prove something. They were with people who spoke from the core. Calm, clear, inspired. Those who didn't ask to be heard. They just said something that deserved attention. To become this person, develop your ideas, read deeply, write your thoughts, debate with yourself, practice stillness, observe the world. Let life teach you its curriculum, and then distill that into simple truths worth sharing. When you do this, people will feel your energy before you say a word. You'll walk into the room with a quiet presence that says, "I know who I am, and I've been thinking deeply." That's rare. And in today's shallow world, rare is magnetic. So here's the challenge. Think of one insight or experience from your life that shaped your worldview. It could be something painful, beautiful, strange, or subtle. Distill it into a sentence or two. Then comment below, what's one idea that you hold dearly? One that someone else might need to hear. Or if you're still learning to shift from neediness to value, write, "I will offer insight, not need." 9. Lead your emotions wisely. Power isn't found in suppressing your emotions, nor is it found in letting them drive the wheel. True power, Stoic power, is in leading your emotions, not being led by them. To become someone unforgettable, you must become someone emotionally sovereign. This doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're clear. It doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you choose what to do with your feelings, rather than letting them choose for you. And in a world that's becoming increasingly reactive, impulsive, and emotionally chaotic, the person who can remain steady amidst storms becomes a lighthouse. People remember the person who didn't crack under pressure, who didn't lash out when provoked, who didn't fold when loved or explode when rejected. Because that kind of self-possession is rare. And rare is unforgettable. But to lead your emotions wisely, you first need to stop fearing them. Anger, sadness, loneliness, jealousy. These are not shameful. They are signals, data points. Energy that if not understood will consume you, but if understood can serve you. The Stoics didn't pretend emotions didn't exist. That's a modern caricature. What they did was train themselves to observe first, respond second. Marcus Aurelius wrote not to be unfeeling, but to keep his feelings from distorting his perception of reality. Epictetus taught not to be unmoved, but to be unmoved by what doesn't matter. The goal is not numbness. The goal is discernment. Here's the truth. You will be triggered. Life will offer you heartbreak, betrayal, loss, and rejection. But when you have trained your mind, these things don't destroy you. They temper you. You absorb the energy of pain and convert it into presence. You notice your emotion, name it, sit with it, and then lead it. Let's say someone insults you. You feel heat in your chest. That's natural. But what comes next? Do you react, defend, attack, or do you pause, observe that heat, and ask, what's really happening here? Why does this bother me? What does this reveal about me, not them? That pause, that space between stimulus and response, is where your power lives. The same applies in love. When someone pulls away or tests you emotionally, do you spiral into neediness, panic, or passive aggression? Or do you breathe deeply, return to yourself, and choose clarity over chaos. The emotionally sovereign man or woman knows this. Your ability to respond wisely when your heart is stirred is one of the most attractive traits you can develop. It shows maturity, leadership, integrity, and people feel that in your presence. They trust it. They're drawn to it, not just in romance, but in friendship, in business, in life. So how do you build this? Begin by observing your reactions daily. Journaling works wonders. Ask, what triggered me? Why? What belief was underneath that emotion? Learn to delay your response by even a few seconds. Train your pause like a muscle. Practice self-inquiry. Is this emotion useful right now? Or is it distorting my view? Don't shame your feelings. Befriend them. But don't let them rule the kingdom. This is not about becoming a robot. It's about becoming a ruler. Not of others, but of yourself. If you've had a moment recently where you paused instead of reacting, share it below. What did you learn? How did you feel after? Or if you're stepping into this path now, write, I lead even when my emotions roar. 10. Read the room. There is a kind of intelligence that doesn't come from books. It doesn't show up in IQ scores or academic accolades. But it shapes how people experience you, and it determines how the world opens up to you. That intelligence is situational awareness. To become someone unforgettable, you must learn to read the room. What does this mean? It means being able to perceive not just what's happening on the surface, but what's being felt beneath it. It means knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to push and when to hold back, when to shine and when to let others glow. It means being attuned. We've all met people who bulldoze every room they enter. They overshare, over-explain. They try to impress, dominate, or perform. They are blind to subtle cues, the glance that says I'm tired, the silence that says this moment matters, the pause that means don't fill it. People who fail to read the room are forgettable. Not because they're unworthy, but because they're out of sync. But the person who feels the rhythm of the room, who moves in tune with the invisible current of energy and mood and nuance, that person becomes a kind of magician. They can navigate conflict with grace, make people feel seen, and adjust their presence like an instrument finely tuned to the environment. Reading the room isn't manipulation. It's empathy, awareness, respect. It's the discipline of presence. And here's the Stoic secret. You can't read the room if you're obsessed with how you're being perceived. If your mind is fixated on your performance, your image, your validation, you're not truly present. You're playing a role, but when you drop the act, you can actually observe. You'll see the subtle shifts. You'll notice tension. You'll sense curiosity. You'll discern truth from posturing. And from that awareness, you'll respond wisely. This skill also gives you immense power in relationships. Romantic, professional, familial, it doesn't matter. When you can sense what someone is feeling without them saying a word, you gain trust, influence, depth. The person who can walk into a room, feel the mood, adjust their energy accordingly, and deliver what the moment needs, that is the person people remember. So how do you develop this? Practice active observation. Spend a day saying less and noticing more. Enter conversations with the question, what is the emotional climate here? Reflect after interactions. What did I miss? What did I notice? Practice eye contact, not in a dominating way, but with soft awareness. Above all, quiet the inner monologue. Let presence be your teacher. This kind of intelligence cannot be faked. But once developed, it becomes a quiet superpower. So here's your reflection. When have you entered a room and instantly felt something unspoken? How did you respond? Or if you're committed to sharpening your social awareness from this moment forward. Right? I listen to the room before I speak to it. 11. Find joy in simplicity. In the final movement of this journey, we return to the foundation of Stoic living. Simplicity. The world is endlessly complex. It thrives on overstimulation. Distraction is not the exception. It is the default. But in the chaos of too much, the soul begins to starve. Because the deepest part of you does not crave more. It craves meaning. And meaning is most often found in the simple things. To become someone others cannot ignore, you must learn to radiate from the inside out, not through extravagance, but through essence, through the mastery of simplicity. Consider the people you admire. The ones who leave a mark. Are they cluttered, frenzied, always chasing more? Or are they calm, focused, present? There's something unforgettable about a man or woman who has nothing to prove, because they've learned that less can be infinitely more. Simplicity is not minimalism in the aesthetic sense. It's the intentional removal of what no longer serves. It's the stripping away of the excessive so the essential can breathe. This shows up in every aspect of life. In your speech, choosing words with precision, not volume. In your habits, removing complexity so discipline can thrive. In your relationships, choosing depth over breadth. In your possessions, owning only what adds richness, not clutter. In your daily routine, finding power in rhythm, not novelty. The Stoics lived this way. They prized clarity over chaos. Seneca wrote that true wealth is not in having much but in needing little. Epictetus advised students to focus not on being impressive but on being free. And freedom is found not in more but in enough. There is a certain serenity in simplicity that cannot be faked, a calm dignity in the man who walks lightly, unburdened, a deep allure in the woman who chooses presence over performance. Simplicity gives you space to hear your own thoughts, to listen to others fully, to act from intention rather than impulse. It sharpens your instincts. It deepens your experience of life. And perhaps most importantly, it makes you memorable. Because when the world is rushing and you are still, when the world is shouting and you are silent, when the world is grasping and you are grounded, you become an anchor. People feel that. They remember it. They crave it. So ask yourself now, what clutter, physical, emotional, mental, needs to be cleared? What excess have you mistaken for identity? What could you let go of right now that would give your spirit more room to breathe? Share one thing you're letting go of today in the comments. Or if you want to claim this shift more boldly, write, I find peace in the simple. You may be surprised how quickly the world begins to pay attention when you no longer chase its attention at all. Conclusion. And now, we've come to the end. If you've made it this far, I want you to pause and breathe. Not just to close a video, but to absorb what you've just walked through. You've been given more than strategies. You've been given reminders, powerful, ancient, quiet truths that have always lived in the background, waiting for you to return. You now know that presence matters more than performance. That restraint speaks louder than noise. That a fulfilled, calm, intentional human being carries more influence than 1,000 loud voices trying to be noticed. To become someone they can't ignore is not about spectacle. It's about essence. It's about who you are when no one is looking. The quality of your thoughts, the rhythm of your actions, the integrity of your silence. And if you're serious about becoming that kind of person, remember, this isn't a checklist. It's a practice, a daily decision, a lifelong refinement. Maybe today, you'll walk slower, speak less, observe more. Maybe tonight, you'll write instead of scroll. Or maybe tomorrow, you'll finally walk away from something that's been dimming your light for far too long. Whatever it is, let this be the moment that things shifted. If something in this video resonated, stirred, or challenged you, share it. Not just with others, but in the comments below. Speak the one principle that hit you hardest. Or write this if you feel ready to step into this version of yourself. I am becoming unforgettable, not by trying, but by becoming. And if this video spoke to your soul, subscribe to the Everlasting Stoic. Join this growing brotherhood and sisterhood of minds who aren't interested in surface-level change, but in eternal growth. Hit the like button, hit the bell, be here for the next message, because this is only the beginning. Until then, walk quietly, walk wisely, walk with purpose, and let the world feel your presence.